I wasn't planning on spending my summer babysitting, not in the swamps of Louisiana, and certainly not in the middle of nowhere for a family I'd never heard of. But when I got the call, something about the way the woman spoke kept me from saying no. Her voice was crisp, almost musical, but with a slight edge. "You were highly recommended, Miss Rena. The twins are special. We don't trust just anyone." The pay was ridiculous, $3,000 a week for just 2 kids. I was broke, fresh out of college, and desperate to get away from the city. It sounded too good to be true, and we all know how those stories end. I arrived at the Morrow estate around dusk. The drive took me deep into the bayou, past sagging wooden bridges, trees thick with moss, and empty houses that leaned like they'd been whispering secrets for centuries. The GPS died 2 miles before I reached the property. No signal, no turning back. The house was a monstrous Victorian, faded white with gabled rooftops and rusted iron railings. Ivy snaked up the side like veins on rotted skin. A long porch wrapped around the front, and 2 identical wooden rocking chairs swayed gently, even though there was no wind. I knocked once. The door creaked open before I could knock again. Mrs. Morrow greeted me in a high-collared black dress that looked like it belonged in a museum. Her face was powdered pale, her smile practiced, and her eyes looked tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. "The twins are excited to meet you," she said softly. "But before that, we must go over the rules." I followed her into a dimly lit sitting room where the air smelled like lavender, old books, and something else, wet wood maybe, or decaying fabric. A fire crackled even though it was mid-July. She handed me a small leather-bound notebook with worn edges and the words, "Rules for Miss Rena," etched on the cover in gold. I flipped it open. Never enter the twins' room after 9:33 p.m. 2. Keep all mirrors in the house covered at night. 3. If you hear humming from the attic, do not investigate. Do not allow the twins to leave the house under any circumstances. 5. At midnight, offer a glass of milk at the basement door. Do not knock. Do not speak. Just leave it and walk away. I stared at her. Is this some kind of joke? Mrs. Morrow's face didn't flinch. I assure you, it is not. She offered a brittle smile and placed a cold hand on my shoulder. Follow the rules and everything will be just fine. Before I could ask what any of it meant, she turned and called out in a sing-song voice, "Children, come meet Miss Rena." I expected them to run down the stairs like normal kids, but they appeared silently, 2 small figures at the top of the staircase, identical, blonde hair perfectly combed, pale skin like porcelain dolls. They didn't smile. "Hello," they said in perfect unison. Their eyes, icy blue, seemed too old for their faces. I forced a smile. "Hi, I'm Rena. You must be." "Abigail," said the girl. "And Aiden," added the boy. They walked down the stairs in sync, feet barely making a sound on the old wooden steps. "I trust you'll be comfortable," Mrs. Morrow said. "We'll be gone until next Monday." "You're leaving tonight?" "We always leave before moonrise." She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Everything you need is in the rule book. Don't stray from it." She gave me a soft nod and disappeared into the night, her footsteps silent as the swamp. That first night was quiet, too quiet. The twins sat at the dinner table but didn't eat. They just watched me. "Don't you like spaghetti?" I asked. "We don't eat after sundown," Abigail said. I glanced at the window. The last orange streaks of light were fading behind the moss-draped trees. "Okay, fair enough." After dinner, they disappeared into their room. I went to check on them at 9:20 p.m. Their bedroom was down a narrow hallway, far from the rest of the house. The wallpaper there was peeling, and the lights flickered as I approached. I knocked softly. "Just making sure you're both okay in there." "We're fine," came their eerie, unified voices. I walked away before 9:33 p.m. At exactly 12 a.m., I remembered the milk. It felt ridiculous, but something in me said not to test it. I poured a glass and tiptoed down to the basement door, which was old and locked from the outside. Cobwebs lined the frame. I placed the glass gently at the base. I didn't knock. I didn't speak. I walked away, just like the rules said. But as I turned the corner at the end of the hallway, I heard something. A whisper, too faint to understand. Then the sound of something lapping like a tongue on glass. The next morning, the milk glass was gone. I told myself the kids must have moved it. That made sense, right? But when I asked, they just stared at me blankly. "We don't go down there," Aiden said. "Not anymore," Abigail added. "Why not?" I asked. They both looked up at me with cold eyes. "Because that's where he sleeps." My skin prickled. "Who?" Their faces broke into wide, sudden grins. "Our real babysitter." I tried to shake it off. Kids said weird things. Maybe they were playing a game. Still, I avoided mirrors that night, covered the ones in the hallway and the guest room with sheets I found in the linen closet. But there was one in the upstairs bathroom I forgot. As I was brushing my teeth, I glanced up. The mirror was foggy from the shower, but I saw something move. I turned around. No one was there. I looked again. There was a figure behind me, tall, lanky, with long arms that stretched toward my shoulders. But when I whipped around again, nothing. Just silence. I didn't sleep that night. By the third day, I noticed something was wrong with the twins. They never blinked. They never laughed. They always spoke at the same time, perfectly in sync, like rehearsed lines from a forgotten play. I found drawings in their playroom, hundreds of them, all charcoal, all of the same man, long black coat, hollow eyes, bent fingers, always standing behind them, always smiling. When I asked them who it was, they answered together, "Mr. Hollow." "Is he real?" I whispered. "Yes," they said. Then Abigail tilted her head and smiled sweetly. "You fed him already? He likes you." I should have left then, but something kept me there, like I was under some fog, some unseen hand gently pressing me into the floorboards of that creaking house. Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was the way the twins watched me every second like they were waiting for something to happen. Or maybe it was the shadow I kept seeing out of the corner of my eye, too tall to be mine. That night, I found a new rule written into the notebook, in the same handwriting, but it hadn't been there before. Don't let them draw you. If they do, burn it immediately. I slammed the notebook shut. Outside, the porch light flickered. Inside, the twins were humming, soft, sweet, melodic. It was coming from the attic, and I had no idea what waited for me upstairs, but I was about to find out. The humming from the attic didn't stop. It was soft at first, soothing, almost like a lullaby, but the longer I listened, the more distorted it became. The melody twisted on itself, like something ancient trying to sound human. My hands trembled as I stood at the bottom of the attic steps, unsure whether I should follow the sound or run from it. Rule number 3 rang in my ears. If you hear humming from the attic, do not investigate. I told myself I wasn't investigating. I was just making sure everything was okay. But as I climbed the stairs, the air grew colder with each step. The wooden boards groaned beneath me like they didn't want me there. A strange pressure settled in my chest, like someone was pushing against me, gently but firmly, trying to hold me back. I reached the door at the top. It was cracked open. Inside was total darkness. "Abigail? Aiden?" I whispered. No answer. I pushed the door open a little more. The humming stopped instantly. That silence hit me like a slap, loud and absolute. My breath fogged in the air even though it was summer. Something smelled wrong, like mildew and iron. I turned to leave. That's when I heard it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. From behind the far wall, I stepped back, hand trembling as I reached for the light cord. I pulled it. Nothing. Then, movement. A figure darted across the far corner of the attic. Tall, thin, unnaturally fast. I screamed and bolted down the stairs 2 at a time, slamming the attic door shut behind me and nearly tripping over my own feet as I landed in the hallway. When I turned around, both twins were standing at the bottom of the staircase, staring up at me. "We told you not to go up there," Aiden said flatly. "You woke him up," Abigail added. I could barely speak. What was that?" They didn't answer. They just walked back to their room in eerie unison. That morning, I found another page in the notebook, not written in ink, but scratched into the paper, deep and ragged. "If you break the rules, he breaks you." The letters were jagged, like they'd been carved with a blade. I shut the book, heart pounding, and decided to do the one thing I should have done on day 1, call Mrs. Morrow. But there was no cell signal. Again, the landline in the hallway was dead too, just static. I even tried walking to the edge of the woods for reception, but no bars, just the sound of buzzing flies and distant croaking frogs. I wasn't just cut off, I was trapped. Later that day, I found Aiden sitting alone on the porch swing, staring at the forest. His little hands were folded neatly in his lap. His face was calm, too calm for a child. I sat beside him. Aiden? I said gently, what is this place? He didn't look at me. It's home. And Mr. Hollow? Is he real? This time he turned his head slightly. He lives in the house, has for a long time. What does he want? Aiden hesitated. He wants to stay. And if I leave? His voice dropped to a whisper. Then he follows. That night I double-checked everything, all mirrors covered, twins in bed before 9 p.m., basement milk ready and waiting on the kitchen counter. And yet, as I was about to take the glass down, I noticed something strange. The milk had turned gray. I frowned, sniffed it. It smelled like ash. I poured it out and filled a fresh glass from the fridge. As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of the kitchen window. There was a face watching me from the dark. Not a child's face. Something long and hollow and grinning far too wide. I dropped the glass. It shattered on the floor. The face vanished. I didn't leave the milk that night. I didn't go near the basement. Instead, I locked myself in the guest room and pushed the dresser in front of the door. At 12:03 a.m., something knocked. 3 slow knocks. Then, a whisper. Rena. I froze. It sounded like Mrs. Morrow. I moved closer to the door, unsure if I was hearing things. Rena, you forgot his milk. I covered my ears. You're not real. You're not real. Then silence. And from the hallway, the sound of long, scraping fingers dragging across the wood. The next morning, the house felt different. Still. Heavy. Like it was holding its breath. The twins didn't speak. They sat at the table with blank stares and untouched food. When I asked them what was wrong, Abigail slowly pointed to the rule book on the mantel. Another page had been added. 7. If you miss a milk offering, leave 2 the next night. Double the portion, double the silence. That same evening, I found one of the twins' drawing slipped under my bedroom door. It was me, sitting in a rocking chair with long black fingers wrapped around my shoulders from behind. I burned the drawing. I had to. But the smoke that rose from it didn't smell like paper. It smelled like hair burning. That night I left 2 glasses at the basement door. My hand trembled as I placed them down, hearing something shift behind the door. No whisper this time, just a low, slow breathing. In, out, in, out. I didn't look back. Later, I checked on the twins. Their door was open. They were gone. Panicked, I searched the house, upstairs, downstairs, even the cellar. No sign of them. Then I remembered the attic. I didn't want to. Every part of me screamed not to, but I had no choice. I climbed the stairs again, heart racing. The door was wide open, and inside, in the center of the dusty floor, were the twins, sitting cross-legged, their backs to me, drawing with red chalk in complete silence. Circles, symbols, eyes, hundreds of eyes. Aiden? Abigail? I whispered. They didn't move. I stepped closer. The attic light flickered on. For a split second, I saw something standing behind them. A shape, tall, black, hollow. Then darkness again. I screamed, and then they turned around, smiling. Their mouths were stitched shut. I stumbled backward as the attic light flickered violently, on, off, on again, illuminating the stitched grins of the twins in sickening flashes. Thick black thread had been pulled through their lips, looped and tied in uneven X's. Their eyes, blank glassy, followed me with unnatural calm. Aiden? My voice cracked. Abigail? They didn't speak. They only smiled. Behind them, I could still feel the shape standing tall and still, its presence colder than death. But every time I tried to see it, it slipped from my vision like oil through fingers. I backed down the stairs, each step feeling like I was pulling myself out of quicksand. When I reached the bottom, I slammed the attic door shut and dragged a heavy trunk in front of it. Heart pounding, hands shaking. This wasn't a babysitting job anymore. This was something else, something evil. I rushed to the twins' room, empty. Their beds were neatly made, their toys untouched, everything just wrong. It felt staged, like a dollhouse display, perfect and lifeless. On the floor sat a single, crumpled piece of paper. Another drawing. This time it was me, standing in the attic, my mouth stitched shut, eyes blacked out, and above me in crimson ink, "Now you belong." I couldn't breathe. I ran to the front door. It wouldn't open. The knob turned, but the door wouldn't budge, like it was nailed shut from the outside. I pounded on it, screaming for help, but the forest outside stood still and silent. I tried the windows, all sealed tight. Every exit led nowhere. I was a prisoner in that cursed house. I returned to the sitting room to grab the rule book. More pages had been added, The ink was fresh, still glistening. 8. Do not disturb the attic ritual once it begins. The price is silence. If the twins go missing, wait for them. They will return when he is done. Do not ever lie to the twins. They always know. A chill ran down my spine. My legs barely supported me as I collapsed onto the couch. I didn't understand how this had happened, how I'd fallen into a living nightmare, and yet a part of me wasn't surprised. Not really. Something about the house had always felt wrong, even before the rules, even before the first night. Maybe I ignored the signs. Maybe I wanted to. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the guest room, back to the wall, facing the door with a kitchen knife in my lap. I watched the clock tick toward midnight. Tick, tick, tick. At exactly 12 a.m., I brought 2 glasses of milk to the basement door again. This time, as I approached, I saw scratch marks on the floor, deep gouges in the wood that hadn't been there before, like something with claws had been trying to dig its way out. I placed the milk gently on the floor and turned away, but just as I reached the hallway corner, the door creaked open behind me. Just an inch, enough for something to slip through. A cold wind rolled out, smelling like damp soil and forgotten graves. Then came the voice. Low, scraping, amused. You burned the drawing. I froze, didn't turn, didn't breathe. He sees you now. I ran. The next morning, the twins were back, sitting at the table, no stitches, no blood, smiling like nothing had happened. Did you sleep well? Abigail asked, stirring her untouched cereal. I didn't answer. Mr. Hollow doesn't like it when you change his gifts, Aiden said. You shouldn't burn things that belong to him. I didn't ask for any of this, I snapped. They stared at me in unison. You don't have to, they said together. The house chose you. I stood up abruptly. I'm leaving. They tilted their heads, still smiling. You can't. And I realized they weren't threatening me. They were telling me a fact. I couldn't leave. Not anymore. Later, I found a door I hadn't noticed before, small, nearly hidden behind a bookcase in the hallway. It was only 4 feet tall, with a rusted latch. It wasn't locked. I opened it. A narrow tunnel stretched out into pitch-black darkness, lined with old bricks and crawling with damp vines. The smell was overpowering, mildew, iron, rot, and something else. Something sweet. I didn't know why, but I stepped inside. The air was heavy, like breathing underwater. The tunnel twisted sharply, then opened into a small stone chamber lit by candlelight. In the center was a dollhouse, an exact replica of the Morrow home, perfectly detailed, every room in miniature. And inside it, tiny wooden figures, Mrs. Morrow, the twins, and me. My figurine was lying in the attic, eyes gouged out, mouth sewn shut. I reached out to grab it, but the floor beneath me shifted. The stone cracked, and something began crawling up through the cracks. A hand, long, thin fingers, black and rotted. Reaching, I screamed and ran, slamming the little door behind me and pushing the bookcase back over it. When I looked down at my hands, they were covered in ash. That night, I received my first message. Not from the twins, not from the house, from her, Mrs. Morrow. The static landline suddenly rang at 3:06 a.m. I picked it up without thinking. Her voice came through in broken, whispered fragments. Them. Not children anymore. He uses them. You must end it. End what? I cried. A long pause. Then, burn the house. The line went dead. Burn the house. That was what Mrs. Morrow said, her voice barely clinging to life through the crackling static of the old landline. Burn the house. At first, the idea sounded insane. Arson? Destroying someone's home? But this wasn't a home. It was a cage. A decaying carcass wrapped in pretty lace curtains and twin giggles. Whatever lived here, it wasn't human. And it wasn't alone. That morning, I didn't see the twins. Not in the kitchen. Not in their room. Not even in the attic. Instead, I found their drawings everywhere. Hundreds of them, scattered through the halls like dead leaves. Some stuck to the walls. Some pinned to the ceiling. All of them moving ever so slightly when I looked away. I tore one down. It showed me again, this time standing in flames, my body splitting open, something crawling out from inside. Underneath it was written, "The fire doesn't free you, it frees him." The rule book was sitting open on the sitting room table. Another rule had appeared overnight. 11. If the house tells you to burn it, don't. That's not the house speaking. That's what lives beneath it. I dropped the book like it was acid. So now what? I was trapped in a haunted house with shape-shifting twins, a whispering demon, and a set of rules that changed themselves. There were no right choices, only consequences. I decided to do what I should have done the first night, go into the basement, this time with a flashlight in one hand and the kitchen knife in the other. The stairs groaned with every step. Mold crept up the walls, thick as veins. Cobwebs clung to my arms as I descended, and the smell was unbearable, wet earth, rotting meat, and something like vinegar. At the base of the stairs, the air was freezing, and I wasn't alone. There was something moving in the corner, something tall and twitching. I lifted my flashlight. It was the milk glasses. Dozens of them, lined up in rows, old and new, some filled with curdled milk, others empty, all vibrating slightly, like they were breathing. Behind them, bones. Child-sized bones, stacked neatly in a circle around a chalk symbol, etched into the dirt floor. I stepped closer. The earth shifted, and then I heard it, a raspy inhale, right beside my ear. You broke the rules, Rena. I spun around, nothing. But a second later, the light flickered, and a face appeared just inches away from mine. No eyes, no nose, just an enormous stitched mouth, grinning ear to ear. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the second floor, my heart thudding, legs numb, lungs burning. That's when I saw them, the twins, standing in the hallway, still, silent. Where were you? I demanded, breathless. Aiden blinked slowly. We were resting. You left me down there alone. Abigail tilted her head. You broke rule number 3, again. I don't care about the damn rules anymore. Their smiles vanished. For the first time they looked scared. You don't mean that, Aiden whispered. If you say it out loud, he hears it. Then Abigail reached into her pocket and handed me something. A small, crumpled photo of a girl, maybe 16, red hair, pale blue eyes. On the back, in faded ink, Marla, the first babysitter, June 1979. She didn't follow the rules either, Abigail said quietly. What happened to her? I asked. Abigail looked down. She's still here. I didn't sleep again that night. The walls creaked with voices, some whispering, some laughing. Pop, the mirror in the guest room bled something dark through the cloth I had taped over it. At 2 a.m., I heard scratching at the attic door. Not from inside, but from the ceiling above it. Then a voice. You should have burned it. The next day, I found the twins in the backyard, digging. Not like children playing. Digging like they were looking for something, something they'd buried long ago. Go back inside, I said. We're almost done, Aiden replied. Abigail lifted a small box from the soil. It was rusted shut. The moment she touched it, the air around us changed. The clouds thickened, the trees quieted, the entire world seemed to lean closer. I snatched the box from her. What is this? They didn't answer. So I ran inside and opened it alone in the kitchen. Inside was a reel of photographs, old Polaroids, all of them showing the same room, the attic, but in each one someone different stood in the center. Always a babysitter, always stitched, always grinning. In the last photo, the figure wasn't stitched at all. It was smiling on its own. And I realized something horrible. It wasn't the house choosing the babysitters. It was him. That night, there was no milk in the fridge. The twins said nothing. They simply stared at me with hollow eyes like they were waiting for me to slip up, waiting for the next rule to write itself in blood. I didn't know what was real anymore, who the twins were, what the house wanted, or if I'd ever make it out. But I did know one thing. I had to find Marla, wherever she was, whatever she'd become, because she might be the only one who understood how to end this. The Polaroids clung to me like a curse. Babysitters, one after another, standing in that attic. Some stitched, some burned, one smiling with no strings at all. And the last one? Me. I don't know how, but there it was. A new photo, freshly developed, resting at the bottom of the box. My face pale, lips sewn tight. Behind me stood the same towering figure, his fingers wrapped around my shoulders like they belonged there. I hadn't taken it, I hadn't posed, but the photo existed, and that meant time was running out. Marla, the first babysitter, the one who somehow was still here. I waited until the twins were in their room, sitting quietly like porcelain statues, drawing with red chalk again, and I made my way upstairs with a flashlight and the photo in hand. I didn't go to the attic. Instead, I searched the house for anything the others might have missed. Old houses hide secrets in their walls, loose floorboards, false drawers, forgotten doors. I found Marla's room behind the linen closet. There was a faint draft coming from behind the towels. I peeled them away and saw a sliver of darkness, an unseen doorway covered with rotted, peeling wallpaper. When I pulled it open, the smell of mold hit me like a punch to the chest. The room was small, no windows, just a narrow bed with iron rails, a vanity covered in cobwebs, and a single mirror. The mirror wasn't covered. I froze. But then I saw her. Not my reflection. Her, a teenage girl, pale, hair matted, wearing a dress from another time. She sat inside the mirror like it was a room of her own, watching me with glassy eyes. Her lips moved, but I heard nothing. I stepped closer. The closer I got, the clearer her voice became, not in my ears, but in my head. "He wants out." "Who?" I whispered. "Mr. Hollow." I held up the photo. "What happened to you?" Her eyes flicked to the Polaroid, then back to me. "I tried to burn the house." "Did it work?" A sad smile crossed her ghostly face. "No, you don't destroy him with fire. You destroy him with memory." "What does that mean?" She pointed behind me. I turned slowly and saw the vanity drawer sliding open by itself. Inside was a small journal. Marla's. I read by flashlight, flipping through the brittle pages. She'd written everything. Her arrival, the rules, the twins, the milk, the creature in the basement, the humming in the attic. But toward the end, her entries became frantic. "He feeds on obedience. He grows through repetition. The more you follow the rules, the more power you give him. He doesn't want you to break the rules because breaking them weakens him. Don't just survive. Resist. Resist." I returned to the main hall, heart pounding, head spinning. The twins were waiting at the bottom of the stairs. They were smiling again, but something was different. Their skin was cracking. Faint lines running up their necks, like old paint peeling off. "You found her," Abigail said. "She always talks too much," Aiden added. "What are you?" I asked. They looked at each other, then smiled even wider. "We're not real anymore. We're what's left." "What do you mean? We belonged to him long ago. He wore us like masks. Then he made more." Abigail reached into her pocket and pulled out a single tooth, human, and handed it to me. "This used to be mine," she said sweetly. I should have been terrified, but something inside me was changing. I wasn't the babysitter anymore. I was the witness. I was the one who remembered. And according to Marla's journal, that was the only thing that could stop him. That night, I waited until 12 a.m. I didn't bring the milk. I didn't cover the mirrors. I sat in the attic, alone, and waited. The humming started, low, sweet, mocking. I didn't run. I didn't follow the rules. The door behind me creaked open slowly. I turned. There he was, Mr. Hollow. Tall, slender, dressed in a black suit stitched with shadows. His face was empty except for the mouth, wide and twitching. He stepped closer and closer, until his breath was on my neck. "You didn't bring the milk," he rasped. "I'm not feeding you anymore," I said. His mouth twitched into a jagged smile. "You broke the rules." "Yes," I whispered, "and I'll break more." I pulled Marla's journal from my pocket and began to read aloud. Each word was like a strike of thunder, each memory a blade. His body began to twitch violently. Cracks splintered across his chest. From inside him, voices screamed, hundreds, maybe thousands, babysitters, children, mothers, fathers, every soul he trapped, every memory erased, returning. "No more rules," I said. "No more hiding." He lunged, but something pulled him back. The mirror on the attic wall shattered outward, and Marla stepped through it, not a ghost anymore. Real. She raised a lantern and whispered one word, "Remember." Mr. Hollow screamed. His body twisted like smoke being sucked back into the earth. His limbs shattered into black ash, his suit ripping at the seams as dozens of faces, real human faces, peeled away from his form. And then silence. The house exhaled. The air shifted. I collapsed. When I woke up, the attic was bright. Morning light flooded in through the now open windows. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Aiden and Abigail, no longer pale, no longer hollow. Real. Children. They looked confused, lost. Aiden asked, "Where's Mom?" Abigail added. I couldn't answer. They didn't remember. But that was okay. I did. We left the attic behind. The house no longer creaked under unseen weight. The air felt clearer, lighter. For the first time, the morning sun didn't seem like a cruel joke. It poured through the windows, chasing shadows into corners they couldn't crawl out of. The twins were different. Human now, fragile, They didn't remember Mr. Hollow, didn't remember the rules, or me. Only fragments, like a half-remembered nightmare. I didn't try to remind them. Some truths are better left buried. Downstairs, the house had started unraveling. Drawings vanished from the walls. Mirrors no longer bled. The basement door stood open. Nothing behind it but old shelves, mildew, and dust. It was just a house again. Until I stepped into the sitting room. The rule book was still there. But now, only one page remained, blank. As I stared at it, letters burned into the paper right before my eyes. Final rule. Leave. Do not look back. I took the twins by the hand and walked them outside. The moment our feet touched the moss-covered steps of the porch, the front door slammed shut behind us. We didn't flinch. We didn't speak. We walked through the overgrown yard, past the trees that once whispered, along the dirt path that led back to the world. I kept my eyes forward the whole way until I heard it, a soft creak from behind, like a rocking chair swaying. My body froze. The air went cold for a second. A chill ran up my spine. But I remembered the final rule. Do not look back. So I didn't. Hours later, I flagged down a local farmer on the edge of the woods. He gave us water, made a call to the sheriff, and even offered a ride into town. I told him I'd been house sitting for relatives and that the kids had gotten lost in the woods. No one asked more questions. No one pressed for more. And just like that, it was over. Mrs. Morrow never returned. The house, when officials arrived, was gone. Not burned, not ransacked, just gone. Nothing but a clearing where it had stood. No foundation, no debris, as if it had been erased. They searched for records, ownership, blueprints. There were none. The Morrow family name didn't exist in the county. There had never been a house on Hollow Creek Road, at least not one anyone remembered, except me. The twins were placed into foster care temporarily. I visited once just to see. They were laughing, color in their cheeks, no red chalk, no matching voices, just normal children. Abigail was drawing butterflies. Aiden was obsessed with space. They waved when they saw me, but didn't recognize me. Not really. I think that's how it should be. As for me, sometimes I dream of the attic, of mirrors cracking, of the sound of milk being slurped from a glass I didn't set down. But when I wake, I remember what Marla said. He feeds on obedience. He grows through repetition. So I broke the rules, and maybe that's why I'm still here. I keep Marla's journal in my drawer. Every now and then I write new pages in it. Not rules, not warnings. Memories. Because memory is the only thing stronger than fear, the only thing that keeps him out. But just to be safe, I always leave a light on in my hallway, and I never ever buy milk.